Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episode where we talk about movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us today on the Media Boat Podcast. Today is November the 27th, 2024. This is episode 463. Thank you for joining us for this special pre-Thanksgiving episode. If you're here in the US, enjoy all the food tomorrow. But for now, we have a feast of information.
Yes, and we start with the appetizer of
Sort
music
of.
section. So the music
Yeah,
section with the Billboard, start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And the
what's that?
hottest song in the land is a bar song, Tipsy
Still.
by Shabuzi. At 2, Die with a Smile by Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga. Coming in at 3, Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. At 4, Lose Control by Teddy Swims. And rounding out your top 5, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter.
Yep, just a reorganization of number 4 and 5 this week. Otherwise, it's the same as last time.
Yep. As for your album chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1 is Golden Hour. Not that Golden Hour. This is Golden Hour Part 2,
Yeah,
EP by A Tease.
what a tease.
It is a tease because at number 2 is the real number 1 album of the week, From Zero by Linkin Park.
Couldn't quite get that number 1 spot because yet another or a K-pop band released an EP.
Yep,
Sorry, guys.
technically an EP counts. Coming in at 3, Chromacopia by Tyler, the Creator. At 4, Happy, EP by Jin. And running your top 5, Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter.
Yep,
Those two darn EPs. Uh,
happens.
yes, but if you don't like any of those albums, we have new releases.
I was gonna say, if you don't like any of those
New
albums, get
release.
ready for next week where the Christmas albums will start invading.
Yep, because Christmas parties start this weekend after Christmas. So
Yes.
that's when Christmas actually starts.
Yeah. I agree.
So you have one release,
Yes.
and it's The Party Never Ends by, that can't be right, Juice World?
Yes, so this is a posthumous record. All like the last three of his
Yeah.
albums have, of course, been posthumous. This is another one. So I guess it depends on your whether it ends or not depends on your definition of party.
If the song album is on loop, then it truly does never end.
Doesn't end.
One thing that never ends is our coverage of Drake, because he constantly puts his foot wherever he wants it to be,
Well, this is kind
good
of a
and bad.
hybrid. Yeah, this is kind of a hybrid story because this buried in this story is a big release, which we'll talk about in the thoughts. But yes, talk about why Drake is suing.
So, just one day after Drake filed a petition accusing Universal Music of conspiring with Spotify to falsely boost the numbers of Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, the Canadian rapper has filed a second action, this one
Audio
in
listeners, he
Texas.
used scare quotes around rapper.
This one, he filed a second motion in Texas, claiming that UMG was aware that the song, quote, falsely, end quote, accused him of pedophilia, but chose to distribute anyways. It also claims that UMG, quote, funneled payments to iHeart, the country's largest radio network, as part of a pay-to-play scheme to promote the song on radio.
So yeah, we're going to spend as little time on this as UMG is likely to spend on these lawsuits because they do seem kind of frivolous.
Mhm.
I'll just say, yeah, so there's two total lawsuits. The first of which is the one about UMG partnering with Spotify to artificially boost the numbers of Not Like Us. And the second one is about the actual defamation. The second one has to do with the content of the song and alleging that UMG went ahead with its release and its promotion, knowing that it had false claims about Drake's character. So, yeah, I don't see either of these going very far in court. The first one, especially, there's a lot of proof that UMG and especially Spotify can show a court, if it goes that far, that it was generated normally. Like these numbers came from people actively listening on the service. They requested
Mhm.
Not Like Us, and it blew up in popularity because of the people themselves, not because of any sort of artificial like zhuzh that the label did.
If anything, this is going to get people to go back to listen to Not Like Us and
Right.
try and poke around and find out, oh, is this the pedophilia line? Is that the pedophilia line? It's going to eventually boost those numbers up again.
It might be the line where he calls Drake certified pedophile. That might be the one. But the
Yeah,
second,
but if you got to extrapolate around it. You can't just take
yeah,
those two words.
no. But here's the thing: is Kendrick Lamar is protected by free speech here. There's pretty
Mhm.
much no argument that can be made in a court of law that would protect Drake. I
Yeah, but
really
that's why it's
doubt.
in Texas because they're not in a
Yeah.
court of law.
Hey, there are parts. Anyway.
You're right. Sorry.
Um,
This is why he filed it in the US and not in Canada because
yeah.
of court of law.
Right. But yeah, and as for the second case, yeah, we'll see. I think these both get settled. I think Drake is just going to get some money. I don't think this is going to go to court. I do not think there will be a jury. This will be done very quickly and very tidily, and Drake will get paid out and he'll forget this ever happened. The only thing is that what can't go away from litigation, and I don't know if Drake understands this, is the court of public opinion. And I think that has been out against Drake like for a while now, and I just don't know how he recovers. Like I just don't know what you do next if you're Drake when the biggest rapper in the world has basically called you out.
Well, what you do is you grab a shovel and start burying yourself next to him.
I don't know. We'll find out, won't we? I'm sure Drake will do something. He
Well,
always
if he
does.
isn't 6 feet under by now, he's definitely after this latest release.
Yeah, the knockout blow, I guess, if you will, came this weekend, this past week, where Kendrick Lamar surprised the world by surprise dropping a full-length album. The album is called GNX, named after the car, because rappers love naming things after cars. Artists in general do. Just look at
Mhm.
Post Malone this year. But yeah, it's a Kendrick Lamar record. I'm here to tell you that it is what you want from one of his records. Unlike if you turn back the clock, if you listen back to our take, or I guess my take, I don't know if you listened to it, about of his last record, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, from 2022, I want to say.
I liked that album. I think it was my number five of the year.
Was it? I don't
Wait,
remember you
was that
rating
one?
it so
No,
high.
no, I'm thinking
You're
of the
thinking of,
Andre 3000 one.
yeah, it's a very different record.
Yes, but
No,
also a very long name.
yeah. So that record was very insular. It was kind of Kendrick's therapy record in a lot of ways. I didn't dig it. Like I was having some trouble getting into it. There were some songs that I felt like I couldn't really figure out, and maybe this is the point, where he stood on certain issues. And I think he kind of just went back and forth about little stuff. And yeah, and I get why artistically he chose to do it that way. But forget all of that. GNX is back basically picking up where he left off with Damn from 2017. This is very much a heavy rap record. There's a lot of like West Coast kind of beats here. It's very inspired, I think, by the success of Not Like Us. I think he took notes about what people wanted from him and made a record full of that kind of vibe, like blockbustin' summer beats kind of thing. Mustard, who produced Not Like Us, is back almost on every track. He even yells out Mustard's name in a very memeable moment that's already a huge thing on social media. Um, it's very, if you like Not Like Us, this is a record that he made for you. This is going to be a huge release for the year. Don't be surprised if you see this pop up on a lot of top 10 lists from a lot of different websites, even though it came out just before the buzzer.
Yeah, just
I
for
think this is going to shake
all
up.
lists were due on the
Yeah.
first.
As for me specifically, yeah, I really enjoy it. I've listened to it about 3 times now. I think it's a pretty solid record. I maybe don't like it as much as Good Kid, Mad City or To Pimp a Butterfly, but it's up there. I like it better than Damn, which I didn't really get when it came out. Um, this has some really great moments in it. And I think that it's just a solid rap record, front to back. As I've said multiple times on this podcast, though, caveat, I am not necessarily a rap expert. I'm not a hip hop guy typically. I mean, look at me. Um, but
Can't
but
look at you. It's a podcast.
but there are exceptions, and this happens to be an exception for me. And yeah, if you like Kendrick Lamar at his peak, hey, check this out. I think he might be at his peak right now.
All right. Well, I mean, next we'll see him is on the Super Bowl,
Yes.
unless he decides to drop another album between them.
And he just said, well, it's possible. There's a rumor going around that this might just be an intro to something else he might have up his sleeve. But yes, funny that you mentioned that. A music story I didn't include today because I just saw it was that he's also going to drop in by the Rose Bowl. So he will not be just aiming towards the Super Bowl. There will be some sort of Rose Bowl appearance as well.
Is that Rose Bowl appearance in any way connected to the weekend's Rose Bowl appearance?
It might be. Who knows?
Because just hours ago, The Weeknd announced that he was going to release a new album
Aha.
on January 24th.
Yes.
I think it's the 24th. Yeah, January 24th, with a one night only Rose Bowl appearance show on the
Hmm.
25th.
You know what? That's probably what I read. I read it too quickly. It was the weekend, not Kendrick Lamar. You're right.
Okay.
I mean, he could show up too, but I don't know
He
how. I don't
could.
know if he and the weekend get along. I don't know if they're a pair. Anyway,
Not since the Idol.
yeah, no one wants to do business with him now. I wouldn't.
Uh, but yeah, so that's side story real
Yeah.
quick. The Weeknd announced a new album, a one night only show on the Rose Bowl. If you go to the website for tickets, apparently the according to The Weeknd, the entire floor is going to be the stage.
Wow.
So
Okay.
technically, there are no floor seats that you can purchase.
No floor
It's all
seats.
stadium seating.
He's sold out the floor seats already.
He is the floor
Uh,
seats.
he is the floor seats. All right, that'll do it. For
Uh,
thoughts. Let's move on.
kind of. I did also
Oh,
listen to GNX.
okay. What do
That's
you
why I
think?
put the maybe in
Yeah, you
here.
said maybe, and so I assume that you didn't listen to it.
Oh no, I listened to it. I just don't know if I'm really the one who should be talking about this.
Okay, interesting.
Because
So what's your
this,
impression then?
my impression is that it felt like homework.
Homework.
That there's a lot of stuff that he talks about in this as rap beef going around to it that like, okay, I get what he's saying, but I don't know like the full context behind why he's saying it. I get the lyrics, I understand it,
Mhm.
but only to a certain degree, and not like the in-depth that someone else might have for it.
So it sounds like to
So
me that you just need to sit on Genius for a while and click on things.
possibly, I did watch a couple video essays on GNX already,
Wow.
and
Okay.
yeah, they liked it. They loved it. I kept feeling like,
Yeah.
okay. Every single time I was like, it felt like it felt like I was watching or listening to like Avengers Infinity War, but I've never seen an Avengers film before. So I had no idea who anything was or what was going on, but I knew like the general idea of what was going on.
Okay. Fair enough.
Felt something like that. But like you said, we're not the people to be talking about this album or to be like going
Yeah.
in depth about it.
Look elsewhere for expert opinion. Also, don't go to Pitchfork.
Okay.
6.6.
Ooh.
They got it way wrong. Anyway, let's move
Anyways,
on.
yes, let's go into video games where we have new release.
Yep.
Again, a solo release. This one is Nine Souls for everything. Wide release. You got it. You can play it.
The name is a hint to what this game is. It is a Dark Souls-esque game starring a cat where the nine comes from, 9 lives.
And not a planetary exposition where
No,
the nine are the planets and souls is Spanish for sun.
no, but you should make that game and see how that goes.
Well, I'll see how accurate it is because According to some, there are only 8 planets now, and not 9.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless that is
Keep
the
up with
goal of
the
the game is to
times.
find the ninth planet.
Yeah. Find Pluto. Where did Pluto go?
Yeah.
He's a
All right.
Disney dog.
Let's go
Spoiler alert.
into video game news, and we're going to go
All
over to
right.
PlayStation,
Yes.
where veteran Sony executive Shuhei Yoshida has announced that he will be leaving the company in January after, oh my God, 31 years at PlayStation.
Yeah.
Sharing the news on the PlayStation blog, Yoshida said that the brand celebrating its 30th anniversary, he feels it's the right time to move on. Quote, I'm leaving Sony Interactive Entertainment on January 15, 2025. It's like announcing the launch date of a new game, something I haven't done in a long time. I've been with PlayStation from the beginning. This is my 31st year with PlayStation. And when I hit 30 years, I was thinking, hmm, it may be about time for me to move on. You know, the company's been doing great. Yoshida, wait, I think, yeah, there's a close quote around there somewhere.
Yeah. Somewhere.
Yoshida, who joined the PlayStation project in 1993, a year before its release of the original console, he then went on to become the president of Sony Computer Entertainment, which now got rebranded, is known as Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios.
Yeah. So, yeah, as the numbers imply, he's been there through all of the PlayStations. He saw them all through in multiple roles at the company, kind of moving up the corporate ladder. Yeah, he was kind of associated with the brand to the point where he was the guy who they often put out in front of interviews and brand related kind of statements that needed to be made. He was the dude. From all accounts that I've seen, it seems like he was a very likable guy. He was a very friendly guy. He was very good with the press, both in Japan and in the US. And yeah, it's kind of sad to lose somebody who's been so tied to PlayStation after 30 years. That said, 30 years is a long time to spend at any company. And if this was the US, it would make sense that you would retire at that point. Like, that's when most executives retire, is when they've had like 30 years under their belt. They're getting, up there in age, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm good. Let's do something else. I say in the US because in Japan, you don't see this as often. Um, you can just look at Nintendo, for example. Like Shigeru Miyamoto is older than Yoshida here, and he is not leaving anytime soon. At least so he says he. So it just goes to show you that it's a different kind of culture there. It's like you're really associated with your job to the point where you don't leave. Why would you leave?
Mhm.
It's great. And so, yeah, so it's actually kind of nice to see a guy leave when he wants to on his own terms, when he's ready and not being forced out or not being like aged out, or just like, yeah, I'm good. 30 years, let's call it.
Unless he's going to pull a Studio Ghibli and come right back saying, oh, yeah, I'm not actually retired.
Probably not. Video games is a very different business. It's less, especially on the executive level, it's less creative driven. Like this is something that he probably will be happier not doing day in, day out.
All right.
But there's a second little mini PlayStation story attached to this week.
Yes, something that gives life to PlayStation portables.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you did. Because
Yeah.
Sony is developing a new portable console capable of playing PlayStation 5 games. According to Bloomberg, Sony
Yes.
Interactive Entertainment is in the quote early stages of developing the device, which is still years away from a potential release. Note,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be a portable, not like the current PlayStation Portal.
Yeah. Separate from the portal, this is planned to be a device outside of the portal that is a dedicated video game system. So the portal currently, although there's a beta right now for streaming games from it, the portal currently is just for streaming from the PlayStation 5.
Mhm.
They are testing direct streaming from the handheld right now. But this is supposing that there will be eventually a device that has the PlayStation 5 guts in it and will be able to download, like, have PS5 level games downloaded, installed, and play directly from the system. Yeah, like the story says, who knows when this will come out? It'll probably be years away. I imagine this might be something that they do when they announce a PlayStation 6, they can put out there. It's like, hey, if you want to catch up on the library, here's a device that lets you do that in a convenient form. So I could see them doing this. This correlates, of course, with Microsoft having a rumor a couple of years old now of them doing a portable Xbox of some sort. And of course, this is all happening at the same time Nintendo will be launching a Switch 2. So we're going to have the same thing that has happened every generation since the Wii, which is a little like late into the generation. Sony and Microsoft both realized, wow, Nintendo was onto something, weren't they? And do the thing late. It was motion control the first time, and now it's this.
We will see about that, but then again, they have been ahead of Nintendo in terms of online play.
Right. Yeah. We definitely know that.
Yes. So if this is supposed to come out with the PlayStation 6, I could see them calling it a PlayStation Go, where the 6 becomes a G and
It's not
totally
bad,
mess with
actually.
everyone.
It's not bad. That's something there.
Or you call it a PlayStation 360 and
That's
say like you take it
confusing.
360 on the go because the
No,
6.
there's a lawsuit there waiting to
I know
happen.
there is.
Contrary to Xbox's new marketing scheme, that is not an Xbox. Anyway, we didn't have time to talk about that last week, but oh boy. Anyways, do we have any thoughts this week? Did we play any video games?
I have went back to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as I'm going back through the games that were released this year to try and compile a list and see where they rank.
Mm.
I'm running it through hard mode. I've run into an issue.
Uh-oh.
I didn't upgrade all my gear prior to starting hard mode.
Oh no.
So I'm gonna have to go back and do some cleanup because I thought I did everything. It turned out I didn't and started early. But I may be streaming some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth,
Okay.
not this week because it's Thanksgiving weekend,
Yeah.
but into next week.
Okay. We will put a bookmark in that one then.
Yep. Did you go back to Astrobot yet?
No, I haven't had time. This has been kind of a busy last couple weeks, so I'll get to it.
Haha, my time still reigns supreme.
Yes, yes. Enjoy and gloat while you can. All right, then let's move on to the television section. Why don't you start us off with some sports?
Yep, we're gonna start in the sports corner. And we're starting the corner of the octagon, where the face of proper number 12, Irish whiskey, is no longer going to be the face of
No,
Irish whiskey.
or anything really.
Yes, that MMA fighter, Conor McGregor, has been found liable in a sexual assault case last week in Dublin. For those who weren't aware, Conor McGregor already sold his portion of proper number 12 3
Mhm.
years ago in 2021. But he still
Yeah.
remained on as the face of the brand.
Also important to note that this is not the first we've heard of potential allegations against Conor McGregor. He's had several allegations over the years. I already hated the dude's guts because I kind of figured, oh, okay, this is adding up to, yeah, this is pretty likely, huh? And yeah,
Mhm.
now we know at least for sure. Um, Related to him losing brand deals, I also saw IO Interactive, the developer behind the Hitman games, said that they will take the Conor McGregor skin that was previously able to be downloaded into the game out of the store and it will no longer be available. So you're going to
Uh,
start seeing his image disappear from all sorts of things.
so you mean the next UFC game won't have him on it?
Thank God. So yeah, I've been over this dude for a while. Every time he kind of popped up in a match, I was just like, please, someone just knock him the fuck out. I don't really care for him. And so yeah, I'm happy that now he hopefully will just disappear and I won't have to see him anymore.
Unfortunately, he's probably next going to try and fight Logan Paul.
Oh
I'm
God.
sorry, Logan Paul's going to try and fight him.
Yeah, I was gonna say try maybe the operative word after what happened with him and Tyson.
Yes.
A lot of trying going on, not a whole lot of doing.
Well, just like Netflix was trying to stream it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That
Netflix was
was
trying
a
to.
real fight.
That was the real fight. All right, let's move
All
on.
right, let's move on into football as it's Thanksgiving
Yes,
weekend. We
famous for
have,
football.
yes, we have not one, not two, not even three games this weekend. We have four games as Amazon last year was very petty about them getting a one fewer game for their Thursday night football because of Thanksgiving. So, as was reported last year, in a token of, I don't know, bribery, I guess, they decided to give Amazon the first ever Black Friday game. That's right. We get three games on Thanksgiving and a game on Friday. So for Thanksgiving, we will have the Bears versus the Lions. Then in the afternoon, the Giants versus the Cowboys in a who the hell is starting at quarterback game. Because both things that you think is starting at quarterback are definitely not starting at quarterback. And lastly, a Dolphins versus Packers game, which should be very interesting. And then that Black Friday game will be Raiders versus Chiefs in a very lopsided uh, battle. Can you call it a battle? Slap fight? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
the
something like that.
the one lost Chiefs versus the two win Raiders. It's not even. It's not even
No,
a game.
no.
No. So yet in an odd twist of fate, Amazon still gets screwed out of a true football game.
Well, who doesn't though is people who watch football because that's a lot of football to watch.
It definitely is.
Did I do my
Especially
picks? I think I
yeah,
did.
I put your picks in by Thursday. Um,
I finally pulled
it
ahead as we kind of previewed last week. I am now two
yes,
full points in first, so I'll
yes,
take it.
and only five, well, eight from me, so I am right on your tail there.
Sure,
Actually,
yeah,
one good week, one
just
good
keep
week.
keep telling yourself that.
I will keep telling myself that until week 18.
Fair enough.
Um, as I mentioned, who knows who's starting between the Giants and Cowboys game? And we don't even know who's starting in the New York teams anymore because both the Jets quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and the Giants quarterback, uh, Daniel Jones, both no longer with the teams as of this
Mm,
past weekend.
yeah.
Well, technically, Daniel Jones is officially no longer with the team. He cleared waivers and is now on the Vikings. But
Mhm.
Aaron Rodgers is being benched, being pulled, will not play this weekend. Unsure if he will continue to play for the Jets. His future is up in the air.
Interesting.
But yeah, NFL is being crazy right now.
Sounds like it.
All right, let's get to some stability. And hey, remember last week when we talked about MLB awards?
Yes,
Well, we got the rest of the awards to hand out,
we got them.
including Cy Young Award winners going to Tarek Skubal and Chris Sale.
Yep, these are the ones that I think we shouted out earlier in the season that were pretty much guaranteed Cy Youngs, and there they are.
Then we have literally two winners, the two winners that were obvious that we called
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. Both
Yes.
won the MVP award. Both did it unanimously, and both were named the 2024 Hank Aaron Award winners for
Yeah.
batting.
Yeah. Again, no surprises here. We called this as well.
Yep. But what we did call is Ohtani becoming only the second player in MLB history to win MVP in both the AL and the NL. He also becomes the sixth player to win back-to-back awards, but only player to win the MVP award unanimously all three times.
Yeah.
If you need any proof of his like stamp into the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
already,
It also means that he now ties Mike Trout with number of MVPs won, which is a fun fact for people who still care about the Angels.
yes. Other awards for the MLB include Ohtani winning for outstanding DH,
Mhm.
uh, Chris Sale and Garrett Crochet for comeback players of the year,
Yeah.
Emmanuel Clace and Ryan Helsley for
Class A.
relievers. Helsley?
Class A.
Helsay.
Class A.
Oh, Emmanuel Clace. Class A.
Yes.
Emmanuel
Annual Class
Class
A.
A and Ryan Helsay.
There you go.
Ah, hey, for relievers of the year. And lastly, the Brewers GM, Matt Arnold, earned the club's first Executive of the Year award. So congratulations to everyone in the MLB for that.
Yeah, all good picks. I don't have a problem with any of these. These all make sense to me after absorbing a lot of baseball last season.
All right, let's get into the NBA, where the NBA championship continues. The Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors have clinched their divisions.
Oh,
So
we should say
congratulations.
it's not the championship, it's the Emirates
That's what
thing.
it's called, the NBA
Yeah.
championship,
It's, it's
not the
so
NBA finals.
misleading.
Yeah, but it's not the NBA finals. They call it the
No,
NBA championship.
you can't call it that.
That's what they call it. Eliminated from contention are the Raptors, the Pacers, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. But outside of the tournament that's currently going on,
Mhm.
the Washington Wizards are a stinker.
Yeah.
Currently sitting at 2-14. At one point, they were a 500 team before hitting a 12-game losing streak.
That's painful. Oof.
I mean, last year we saw the 76ers, I believe.
Something like that.
Either the 76ers or the Pistons, just on a losing streak last year as well, where everyone was kind of rooting for them. All right. Speaking of streaks, NHL. We have a little bit of an update in terms of goal scoring.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
last week we talked about Alex Ovechkin uh, being 32 some odd goals away from Wayne Gretzky's record in goals.
Yep.
And then you had asked, who's the next closest?
Hmm.
Well, turns out we got that answer this past week
I
as
guess so.
Sidney Crosby, age 37, scored his 600th goal. He becomes the 21st player in hockey history to reach said milestone. For those of you who need a refresher, even though Crosby has 600 goals at age 37, he's only a mere 268 goals behind Alex Ovechkin,
Okay.
who is 39 years old. While Alex Ovechkin will probably end up passing Wayne Gretzky's goal record, he will not and probably cannot pass Wayne Gretzky's overall total points record, as most of Gretzky's points come from the assist column. He's got like 2,900 points or 29,000 points, 100 points, something like that. And yeah, Ovechkin and Crosby are like somewhere in like the 1600s. So
Okay.
nowhere close.
Got it.
And lastly, in sports news, get your 12 team brackets ready because we need to know who's going to be in those 4 first round buys.
Mhm.
Now, don't pay attention to the AP polling because in order to get that first round bye, you one have to win your conference. Meaning you can't have two SEC teams, two ACC teams, two Big 12 teams, or two Big 10 teams with those round buys. As such, according to currently rankings, um, Boise State could possibly end up with a bye with 2 losses, though. Just how it shakes out. The last, sorry, going back to last week, the two teams that we talked about were being undefeated. Well, no longer undefeated. One team remains, Oregon, because they were on an idle last week. It's the last team remaining that is undefeated. They are still ranked number 1. Previous undefeated teams, Indiana and Army, both lost this past weekend.
Got it.
Selection Sunday is December 8th. So we have 2 weeks. We are 2 weeks away. 10 days away,
Okay.
technically. Yeah,
Yep. Roughly.
roughly 10 days away.
Okay. That's a lot of sports.
Yeah, it is.
Any other sports before we move on?
Um, I think we're good with sports. We talked a lot about sports.
We did talk a lot about sports. Now it's time to talk about television. We have so much television that we're going to talk about some bits today. So let's start the bits with a sad one about The Simpsons. So, a show that runs this long, eventually your voice actors are going to retire. And the first one has happened. Pamela Hayden has announced her retirement from The Simpsons after 35 years. Yes, you heard that right. That's the entire series run. Technically, she started before the series run, but only weird people like me know that. As the voice of characters such as Milhouse, Jimbo Jones, Rod Flanders, Janie, Malibu Stacy, and of course, many others. So yes, her final episode will be aired, I believe, this coming weekend.
Hmm.
And after that, there's no announced plan right now. No one has been announced to replace her characters yet.
No, but in the article, they said that they will be looking to replace her characters.
Yes, yes, that's what they do. They don't go, jump straight to the AI option. They do try to find active voice actors and cast that way.
Yep.
So
And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's just a good step away from AI taking over,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's
You
only
hope
wait
it's
until
like
like one of the
this.
big ones gets taken away
Yeah, it,
or
it
steps
does
away.
make you think. It's like who could possibly next? When who has a date of Harry Shearer finally just giving up on this thing? It's probably sooner than you think.
Yeah.
But yeah, 35 years is a long time to do anything, as we talked about with 30 years of in the video game industry earlier. So yeah, I can imagine that is a well-earned retirement for Pamela Hayden, and I hope she has a good one. She's done a lot of hard work over the years.
Yep.
All right, next bit. An update about Wendy Williams, who was just labeled as, quote, permanently incapacitated, end quote, in new court documents by her guardian, less than a year after revealing her dementia and aphasia diagnosis to the public. So we knew that, there were things going on with Wendy Williams's health. It looks like this has confirmed that more or less this seems to be a status that you don't give somebody if they're going to come back to the public eye. Sounds
Mhm.
like she is no longer going to probably be public presenting in any way. And yeah, it's kind of sad to see someone who is a staple of television for as long as she was just kind of fade from the spotlight like this because of something she couldn't control. It's a really sad one.
Yeah, her initial leaving of her TV show, the Wendy Williams show,
Hmm.
did come as a surprise to pretty much everyone like
Yeah,
2 years ago when it just out of the blue announced that it was going to stop airing.
yeah,
And here we are, just slowly getting the news drip through court documents, not through any not well, it is official legal representation. I'm
right.
thinking of um not advertising. I can't think of publicity anymore. Any like publicity from her.
Sure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not anything that maybe since that surprise, it's not anything maybe that we didn't see coming, but it is sad news regardless. And yeah,
Yep.
it's a rough one. Let's move on to the next bit. A judge has allowed showrunner Dan Schneider to proceed with his defamation lawsuit over the documentary Quiet on the Set, which delved into sexual misconduct during his time at Nickelodeon. Wow. So it sounds like Drake and Dan Schneider have a few things in common this week. But yeah, so that documentary kind of shone light on some things that were already sort of known and
Hmm.
shared by some of the kid stars at Nickelodeon during the time he was executive producing a lot of shows. It's not a surprise that he wants to kind of fire back at those allegations. But yeah, now it's confirmed that he will be able to do so. So now we'll hand it to the courts and see if this goes anywhere.
Yep.
Who knows?
Whenever something like this happens, this means that Dan Schneider no longer becomes the defendant,
Right.
he becomes the plaintiff in this
Yes.
case, which he has to provide actual evidence of the defamation lawsuit as alleged on the Quiet on Set
Yeah.
documentary.
I am fascinated with what he ultimately chooses to do or say here. Um,
I'm curious as to what he's going to present because a lot of what was in the Quiet on Set was, well, so the Quiet on Set never like outright said that he was
right.
involved or that he knew, but it was more that he was the
Right.
runner of all of this. He was at the head, so he should have known.
Right. Because it's like it's a very tricky legal ground, right? You can't
Mhm.
necessarily say, oh, he definitely was responsible for this. But you can say, yeah, but the guy on top is responsible for the show. And if things are happening in the production, that's him that needs to take it down. And that's him that needs to do something about it. So we'll see what angle he takes to kind of defend that. But we'll
It'll be
see.
interesting to see if there's any other video from the documentary that what didn't make air
Right.
comes out over the course of the trial as well.
We will find out, hopefully.
All right, let's
Next
get into
up,
some like lighthearted news then.
yeah, a little lighter of news here. A season 20 Bachelorette runner-up and the season 28 Bachelor has won season 33 of Dancing with the Stars. Yes, our good pal Joey has somehow won Dancing with the Stars. We didn't watch any Dancing with the Stars, but trust me, we did watch his Bachelorette and Bachelor seasons. We like Joey. We're a pro Joey household here. We thought he was a good dude. Um,
I just think it's funny that the person who won Dancing with the Stars has been in the ABC canon
oh
for
yeah,
the past, I don't know, 13. No, they do 22 of these, 7
just a
years.
couple of these.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, because if you look, there's actually a difference between how many
Oh,
seasons there are of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette.
Bachelorette.
The Bachelorette
Yes.
is a younger show. So actually, season 20 was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So really, it
Okay.
hasn't been much time at all. Because typically they take a runner-up from the Bachelorette season, and that person becomes the Bachelor, and vice versa.
Vice
It just
versa.
keeps going like that season after season. So
Yeah.
he was the batch like a competitor in the Bachelorette right before he was the Bachelor. That's how it works. They tunnel
And
into
then he
one from
won
the other.
Dancing with the
Yeah,
Stars, but you
and then
can't
you go
put a
right
mirror
into
ball
Dancing.
trophy on a hand,
Yeah,
or
because you
can
either
you?
do Bachelor in Paradise or you do Dancing with the Stars. It's your options. Anyway, so yeah, good for Joey, I guess. And our last little TV bit for fans of these shows, The Boys and Peacemaker, the final seasons of both of those shows have wrapped filming, so those will premiere likely next year.
Yep. We knew both these shows were in production. They've officially wrapped filming as of this past week, which
Got
means
it.
now all goes to editing and post-production before we see these probably in March, I'd say, if not April releases.
Fair enough. All right, that's it for TV news. So now we can go into some thoughts. You watched a few television shows.
Did you watch any of these?
No, I did not.
All right, let's start with the one that you should be watching, which is Man on the Inside.
What is Man on the Inside?
So after Ike Sure ended uh The Good Place,
Ah, this is the Ted Danson one on Netflix.
yes,
Got
it
it.
was
Okay.
rumored that him and Ted Danson would make a new show sort of revolving around a retirement community.
Okay.
Well, seeing as The Good Place ended, I don't know, 7 years ago now, it's about time that this finally made it to air. But not on ABC. No, it's on Netflix. And that's what Man on the Inside is. It's Ted Danson as a retiree who takes up a job as a private investigator as confidant to infiltrate the retirement community and get the skinny on a jewel thief.
Okay.
It's
All right.
cute. It's darling. It's not like busting gut, laugh out loud. This is hilarious. This is more Michael Schur on the nuanced of comedy. I'm only 2 episodes into it, which I'm hoping you can catch up. We can talk about it more next week.
Okay.
I
Maybe
think the whole
perhaps
season
I
is out
will.
on Netflix right
Yeah.
now, so you
Okay.
can go ahead and watch that.
You're the
Stephanie
second
Beatrice,
person.
yeah, Stephanie Beatrice is the caretaker of the nursing home, so it's fun to see her in
Yeah.
a non-Brooklyn Nine-Nine role.
Yeah. You're the second person to recommend this to me this week. The first was my mother.
Oh, because Ted Danson.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything there. I just think she was just watching it. She wanted to tell me that it was good.
Okay.
All right. Next up.
Next up, also only 2 episodes in because there have only been 2 episodes. Dune: Prophecy.
Okay.
So this past weekend, I went back and watched Dune 2 as trying to figure out where to place it on my end of the year list. spoilers, yes, it will still end up being on my end of the year despite coming out this year. So once it was over, it said, "Hey, you like Dune 2? Well, we have both Dune and Dune 1985 or 84 and Dune Prophecy."
You got all the
Like,
Dune.
yeah, it's like, okay, I'll watch Dune Prophecy. It's 2 episodes. Let's see. This is supposed to be the next thing for them. Their next Westworld, their next Game of Thrones, their next thing they're going to throw all the money at, all the marketing behind. And yes, it's had troubles even getting off the ground. Showrunners leaving, cast leaving, rewrites to it.
Mhm.
So, in a troubled production, what came out on the other side? And it's intriguing. It's hooky. It's got that Game of Thrones-esque kind of plot where it's a lot of high royals in of the houses who are trying to investigate each other into the murder of a child, but also who's going to like take over the throne. It's the Bene Gesserit from Dune, the ladies with the veils,
Right.
positioning themselves in this pre-Paul Atreides world 10,000 years before his birth, and they explicitly say that that this is how they became the confidants and the power wielders that we see in Dune, and thus the name Dune Prophecy, where they will create over the course of the show this prophecy of the coming doom and how to prevent it or how to stay in power.
Mhm.
Uh, it's very politically heavy show. Lots of talking, communication, dialogues. If at least Mark Strong's in there because he's really good in this, and I like seeing him on TV.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I think it's a good watch. It's very intriguing, and it definitely pulls you in with the first episode, and something I'm actively looking forward to watching every week, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. Because yeah, like I feel like the fantasy or sci-fi ones of these are kind of trickier to pull off. I mean, the only direct comparison we have is the Disney Plus stuff, and even that doesn't feel like a safe comparison.
Yeah,
Maybe
because
Rings of Power on Amazon, like
uh
is this point of comparison.
possibly, except with like Rings of Power, they try and do wide open landscapes,
Yeah.
but are limited because they don't use all that space, or all space is filled with CG battling. Whereas with the Disney Plus shows, they use that LED wall
Right. Yeah.
constantly, and it forces the camera to be on one side of everything constantly, and I hate it for it.
Yeah.
Whereas Dune Prophecy, it doesn't have the big, wide, sweeping landscapes that the Dune films are because this doesn't take place on Arrakis
Mhm.
or the Sand Planet, but instead it takes place within the houses, the royal courts. So you can have a more intimate setting, and that's why I kind of liken it more to Game of Thrones because a lot of those important scenes take place in a confined area. So I
Yeah.
think they're doing well here with the Dune. I can't call it Dune Legacy because the third movie is probably going to call it Dune Legacy or Dune
Right.
Messiah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dune Prophecy show. I think
All right.
they know what they're doing with it. Um, Denis Villeneuve is non-executive producer on this, so this is like being wholehearted taken on by HBO,
Okay.
by Warner.
Yeah. Outside of his purview.
Yes.
Okay, but at least it's promising. I like that you like it enough to be curious about what's coming next.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then lastly, you have something that wrapped up.
Yes. Ended. Finale.
Yes.
Dunzo.
Done.
Arcane season 2. It was announced that the season 2 would be the finale of Arcane. So going into it, I talked about it 2 weeks ago when the first 3 episodes dropped and said that it was continuing to be one of the best things animated and prove why animation is like a necessary medium.
Mhm.
Well, the second act and third act, the next 6 episodes, proved that correctly. And it proved that there is amazing storytelling out there and amazing stories that can be told through animation and stories that can be still shocking I was moved by Arcane.
Mm. Okay.
I did not expect it to end where it did. I was slightly expecting something on a grander scale, but when you have multiple storylines, they've found a way to pull them all together into a very intimate setting.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I was worried about with season one, where it ended at the beginning of season two, is that you have all these multiple characters. They can't all be the main character. Someone has to be the final like main character goal that everyone's working with or towards. Turns out they said no, we can have multiple main characters, that you can make everyone's story matter, from the family aspect to the wide grand scale of the universe aspect
Okay.
to the love between family, friends, bonds, and co-workers even, that that it's something that should be watched by everybody. I don't want to get too much into it without like spoiling it. And I think the League of Legends aspect of it is just dressing on top of an already good story. Because I came into this without knowing League of Legends lore or like the characters within it, but I still had an amazing time watching this. So
Okay.
anyone can come into this. They don't lean heavily on knowing League of Legends, but they do lean heavily on your expectations and then subverting them in the most
Yeah.
spectacular way.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of positive takes on the show as a whole. Though I do want to note, I did see some people a little concerned that it moved away from its focus from the first season, which seemed to be a little bit more like political, and it moved to a little bit more personal this season.
Mhm.
Some people seem to think that that was a lesser, like that was not a great move. But it seems like you reacted pretty strongly to the more personal touch.
Yeah, I enjoyed the personal touch because
Mhm.
you want to make nothing Arcane does very well is that it makes me care for these characters.
Yeah.
It makes me care for these relationships. Yes, you can have all the political intrigue you want, but guess what? You can go do that on Dune Prophecy as well. You can do that on Game of Thrones as well. Are others you can go do that on what's the other Netflix show that does it? The Crown. No, oh yeah, The Crown's on Netflix.
Okay.
Bridgerton's on Netflix. All the same thing.
Bridgerton.
But
Here's the question though. Did it make you love the Imagine Dragons theme song?
no, I wish they had swapped it out this year with the Linkin Park theme song.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't, honestly. That probably would have been a good move.
Well, they did for the first. Well, for that's the one thing that still bugs me about this show is that
Mhm.
there's so many needle drops of songs,
Yeah.
especially in season two compared to season one.
Yeah, you don't need it, but here we are.
You don't need it, but it helps drive the action
Hmm.
without spilling all of the dialogue. So you can have your it's the show don't tell. Let the music tell you while we're
Yeah.
showing you what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is something that I've kind of been oscillating back and forth about whether I should jump into. I, like you, have no affiliation with League of Legends, so I didn't know the characters, I didn't know the world. So that kind of kept me away from checking out season one. But hey, if you say that it works beyond that, it might be worth checking out.
Well, okay, caveat there. If you absolutely hate strong female leads, you're not going to like this show.
Fair enough. All right. Let's move on then. Do we watch anything else you want to talk about real quick?
Nope. I think wait, have I been watching? Oh, I've been watching Shrinking also. But I
Okay.
think all episodes are out, so I'll wait to talk about that when we finish watching that.
All right. Sounds good. We'll wait on that one. In the meantime, it's time for cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
You're no longer watching Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, but we knew that because it was only going to be one season. But I guess it's news that it was confirmed that there wasn't going to be another
It was
season.
confirmed by
Okay.
the creator O'Malley that
Yeah.
it took to Twitter to say that it will not be getting a season two, will not be
Yeah.
getting a rebranding, a
Right.
second thing. It's just that it
I
was the one and done thing.
I mean, we talked about that when we talked about the show wrapping up. The first time, as we said, that he had more or less gotten out in front of that kind of talk and been like, no, there's no plans right now. We wrote the story to be one season, and who knows what Netflix will say, but probably won't happen. And yeah, it didn't happen.
It's okay. It still holds the crown for best Media Boat
Oh, yeah.
podcast show of the year.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It could win again this year. Who knows? Probably not. Next up, Around the Horn. Yes, that Around the Horn, the ESPN staple, canceled after 23 seasons.
It will continue through the summer, but
Okay.
will be officially canceled after that.
Hmm.
They have not decided to cancel Pardon the Interruption, the show immediately after it, but
Right.
Around the Horn has been the lead-in to PTI for
Yeah.
23 seasons.
Been a while.
Pardon the Interruption has been there for 24 seasons. There's only the first season where it didn't have that lead-in, but ever since it's been there. It's been a staple. I
It'll
love
be
Around the Horn.
it'll
I like turning it on in the
yeah.
afternoon, catch up on
It
sports.
it'll feel kind of naked only having one of them there.
I mean, I think this is part of ESPN's overall shift this upcoming
Yeah.
year into away from sports journalists becoming talking heads,
Hmm.
because
Now
that's what Around the Horn was.
they're just gonna put a bunch of sports betting shows on it, aren't they?
Yep, sports betting, fantasy shows. Stephen A. Smith's going to do 5 shows a week, a day.
Just by himself. Yeah, so
Yeah,
well,
you get
that's
Stephen
bad
A.
news.
Smith and Stephen B. Smith and
Yeah.
Stephen C.
Yeah.
Smith, Stephen D. Smith.
Exactly. Anyway, let's move on to some renewals for you. Netflix is bringing back Physical 100 for a third season. You should
Of
be happy
course they
about that.
are.
Good Girl's Guide to Murder will get a second season on Netflix. Christy and I watched that. We didn't really talk about, I think I mentioned it once on the podcast that we were watching that. But
Mhm.
yeah, we finished it. It's all right. I think she liked it a little bit more than I did, but yeah, it's a well-produced kind of murdery solve them up kind of thing. It's there if you want it. Star Wars Visions will get a third season on Disney Plus, which I'm sure you're interested in.
Yep, that's the various art styles and various stories, one-off stories
Yep.
for Star Wars.
CNN's Have I Got News for You will get a second season. Is this the Roy Wood Jr. thing?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So his show will get a second season. It's Florida Man will get a second season on HBO. You just talked about this just a few weeks ago.
Yep. I assume I mean, I don't assume, I know there are a lot more Florida man stories out there to
Yeah.
tell.
The Reba vehicle Happy's Place on NBC got its full season order, so you'll be seeing more of Happy's Place if you want that.
And we'll see if that
Mm.
continues to a second season, but
Who
apparently
knows?
NBC doesn't have a whole lot to fill in next year.
No, sounds like it. Peacock will be bringing back The Day of the Jackal for a second season.
That recently
MG,
got good
yeah,
reviews. I may check that out.
okay. MGM Plus will bring back From, it's a bad title, for a fourth season.
Mhm.
From where? Who knows?
I don't know.
And lastly, Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV Plus will get a second season. All right. That will do it for renewals and cancellations. I don't know why I did that reverse. We have one death real briefly to talk about. Andy Paley, age 72, the composer for SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, I composed a bunch of other things, but mainly he's been working with SpongeBob SquarePants since its
Yeah.
inception.
Yeah, it's sad to see because the vibe of that show is so much based on the music. And so it's a combination of original compositions from Paley and like library music, like basically
Mhm.
just free kind of classical compositions. It's always been a combination of those two things. But to lose the other half of that is pretty disappointing and sad. So yeah, we will miss Andy Paley and his contributions to the show, all 25 years of the show. And then you're writing just now one I didn't know that happened. I guess it's just happened.
Yeah,
We have another death. Jim Abrahams. I forget exactly if it's Abrams or Abrahams.
it's
Uh,
Abrahams.
Abrahams, age 80, one of the directors and screenwriters of the a famous trio of comedy staples
Comedies.
from the 70s and 80s: Airplane, The Naked Gun, and Hot Shots. The Abramses were famous for a very specific style of humor in their movies, that kind of slapstick mixed with
Mhm.
puns, mixed with Leslie Nielsen, typically. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Airplane and the Hot Shots movies. They're just goofy, dumb fun. I might have to put one on this weekend in honor of Mr. Jim Abrahams.
You know the
They
one you
kind
have
of
to put
dropped,
on.
huh?
You have to put on Naked Gun 3 1/3.
Oh, is that your personal pick?
No, it's just the one that's the most
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I think I have a soft spot for Hot Shots Part 2, which is the
That's a
second
good
Hot
one too.
Shots, which is a kind of like is that the one that's the what you call it? The Rambo parody. That's
Yes,
the
that's the
Rambo
Rambo
parody
parody.
one. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Anyway,
Also, if
so
you say you
RIP.
hate Airplane, you've not seen Airplane.
That's true. That's true.
There,
It's a
I've yet to
classic.
see someone who says they do not like the movie Airplane.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last segment today, which is movies. And we start movies with the weekend box office numbers. Your number one on the list this week is, of course, Wicked, which we should have taken that over under because I would have won. $112 million in its opening weekend. You said, will it be 100? I said, yes, it will.
Yep.
And it did. 112 for its opening debut domestic. Pretty good. It's pretty good. Number two, it's competitor Gladiator 2, which you just have Gladiator here, which is very funny. Um,
Oh, because I had Gladiator put it in between the two and
2,
then I
and you didn't.
deleted it. Yeah.
That's funny. Gladiator 2 made only $55 million in its opening weekend, just half of what Wicked made. Number
Yeah, but we knew
three,
that was probably going to happen.
yeah. Number three, Red One made another $13 million. That's at 52 million domestic.
Mhm.
Number four, Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin, made $5 million in its debut.
Yep, that's the World War II movie, which you forgot to say the colon in, but
Oh,
you know,
sorry, colon, Pastor, period, Spy, period, Assassin, period.
there you go.
Here it is. And then rounding out your top five, Venom: The Last Dance is still here with $3.8 million.
Yeah, that's at 133, and that's a paltry showing.
Mm, yeah, pretty bad. All right, let's move on to our new releases this week. We have one big release this week. Wicked already made it out, but Moana 2 is the last big release of the Thanksgiving period. So, yes, Moana 2 out there. Reviews are hitting for it, and it does not look great.
It doesn't matter. It's a Disney family film.
Yeah. I had a conversation with Christy where we were like, okay, now that the reviews are in, I think we can pretty safely wait for Disney Plus for Moana and just go to the theater for Wicked and just Wicked.
I think I might do the same thing.
Yeah.
And we knew this was probably going to happen because Moana 2 was supposed to be Moana, the TV
Yes.
series,
All of
and
the
then it got
reviews mention that.
transformed
Yeah. It seems
transformed
like
into Moana 2.
there's a theme here that it seems like all the reviews are aware of that and blame it for a lot of its weaknesses,
Mm,
which we saw coming a mile away.
yes.
Before we talk about the next week, we have to talk about sequels, a thorn in the side of the movie business.
I mean, we just
This
talked about
year,
Moana
though,
2. What are you
I
talking
know
about?
exactly. But this year, all 10 of the current highest growing movies of 2024, grossing movies, are sequels this year, with Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Despicable Me 4 taking up the top three spots of the domestic box office. That marks the first time that the entire top 10 is just made of follow up titles and not prequels, reboots, and films merely consisting of existing IP. So, yeah, if you're not talking about just franchise movies, we're talking about specifically sequels, movies that take place after the original.
Hmm.
Dune Part 2 and Godzilla X Kong The New Empire round out the top five, while the likes of Kung Fu Panda 4, Beetlejuice, Venom The Last Dance, Bad Boys Ride or Die, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes make up the rest of the top 10. The only upcoming film that could break into the top 10 that doesn't follow this pattern is Wicked, but it would have to make $400 million domestically to do so. It will. Come on. It's going to
Yes.
do it.
I mean, it's
Uh,
already
see,
gonna pass Men in the Last
yeah,
Dance here at 133.
right. Sequels that are to be tracked, still to be tracked and could break into the top 10 are Moana 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Mufasa: The Lion King. So yeah, you're gonna definitely see Mufasa in there. You're gonna see Sonic the Hedgehog in there. I don't know about Moana. That's a 50-50 coin flip at this point. But yeah, I think Wicked will eventually make it into that top 10 pretty comfortably. So we'll see.
It might, but will it stay there? Because Hedgehog Sonic comes out on
Yeah,
the 20th, same with Mufasa. It's that Christmas week.
right.
So it's not gonna have a whole lot of time for this year, but at the end of the day, like once January crawls through and cleans up like all the constant people who go see movies,
Yeah.
it may get pushed out by then.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. But oh yeah, and also if you want to be really pedantic, is Wicked just a sequel to The Wizard of Oz?
No,
No, it's
technically,
it's a prequel, I
Wicked
know.
Part 2 will be the
Yeah,
sequel to Wicked.
that's true. Anyways,
Because, yeah, lots of people didn't know this was a one-part movie.
yeah, they're gonna find out very soon. All right, that does it for movie news. We watched a couple of movies.
Yes.
I'm curious what yours is. What is Spellbound?
Spellbound is the new animated movie on Netflix.
Okay.
This comes from Skydance Animation, where John Lasseter is now headed following his exit from Pixar and Disney. Uh, Despite what any of the marketing shows, this is a goddamn musical. And
Hmm.
it's by one of the greatest people who ever composed musicals. But it's nowhere listed in any of the advertising. This is an Alan Menken musical directed by John Lasseter for
Oh,
Skydance.
ew, gross. No, thank you.
Weird, right?
No, no, thank you. I don't want any part of this.
Okay. Well, neither does the main character. Because Spellbound is about a girl who's coming of
Hmm.
age. They specifically call out that she is 15.
Hmm.
And her parents are monsters.
Literally?
Both both in the metaphorical sense that they always fight, and in
Hmm.
the literal sense that they
Yeah.
traveled into the dark forest and got turned into monsters. So Spellbound is the journey
Hmm.
of this girl basically growing up in a household where her parents are literal monsters. So she has to be kind of like the parent in the group. She has to parent her parents. Oh, did I mention that she's also the princess and the monsters are the king and queen? And she's been keeping the secret for a
Ah.
year.
Oh boy.
And all she wants to do is be a normal teenager. But she can't because her parents are monsters and constantly fighting and they don't know how to turn them back.
Got it.
So they have to go on a magical journey through the enchanted dark forest to reverse the spell. And along the way, we find out why her parents got turned into monsters and would she resist the temptation to become a monster herself.
Hmm.
Uh, like I said, it's a musical. I was not expecting it to be a musical. I think a lot of the musical elements kind of just wash over me. They do help move the story. They really help move the story forward because all of them literally stop the motion of the movie in order to tell and show what they just explained. So it's
Okay.
kind of like doubling down on it, which I didn't really find pleasing.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, this is just a metaphor for parents going through a divorce. Parents
Sure.
who are constantly fighting at each other. Parents
Yeah.
who are too focused on fighting amongst themselves that they neglect their child. And so the child has to grow up a lot more quicker than some of her peers. And
Yeah.
this is also like added on that she is the princess. So she has to basically run the kingdom while trying to keep the secret that her parents have been monsters for a whole year and trying to keep them out of the public's eye.
Hmm.
So she feels like she's being robbed of her childhood and just wants to go back to being the way things were. But you can't. Sorry, kid.
Hmm.
Once that feels broken, it's just gonna keep going, just gonna keep getting harder, and things don't go back to the way they were. ever.
Yeah. Okay, sounds like there's some
I'm not speaking from experience. I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
was gonna say it's like this turned into a therapy session there for a second.
It could be for
First
some
of all,
people.
I have one question though that will kind of seal this for me, which is does the presence of John Lasseter loom over this thing a little bit too much, where it's kind of not good enough to stand on its own with knowing that he's involved?
Uh, we'll see. So you say John Lithgow. For a minute there, I was thinking John Lithgow
That's a
because he's
different
also
dude.
in this. I know, but he's also in this movie, and he plays the
He's in this
talking.
movie.
Yeah, John Lithgow's in this movie, and he plays
That's pretty
the
funny.
talking sidekick. So I was like,
Sure.
I thought that's what you're going with, but no, John
No,
Lasseter being executive
no.
producer on this.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it tries too hard to have that kind of Disney eminence, whereas where
Yeah.
with Shrek, that was a complete like knock on Disney, and I feel like they could have done it here as well, uh, but
Well,
decided not to play it a little bit too safe.
this is the second time they tried this. The first one was Luck on Apple TV Plus, which was also a Lasseter production. I believe he directed that one too.
Okay,
So this is they keep trying to put his name out there and see if anybody bites. But I don't know if that's going to work out.
I don't know. A lot of the marketing was from the guy who brought you Toy Story and Cars
Right.
and Bugs Life and like all the like those first Pixar films.
Yeah, but if you like those movies, you might also know why he doesn't work there anymore. So it's
Yes,
like that might not be the best tactic. All right. Okay, so I won't be probably checking out Spellbound. Sorry.
that's okay. But there's a film
We'll
that
just
you're trying to
continue
get
going
me
to
to
therapy.
check out. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually table this one until next week because I really want to you to go into this blind. I could set it up for you here, but I know you're already very confused.
I've
But
read
I
the
watched
description.
hundreds of yeah, so I watched Hundreds of Beavers. It's a movie. That's as much as I will say. And it is right now currently available for free on YouTube. So if you've been waiting to see it, this is a way you can see it. Just search Hundreds of Beavers on YouTube and you'll find it. Oh, yes, you will find it.
I guess
And
this
yeah, we'll
came
talk
out
about it.
earlier this year,
It
like in
did, yes.
April,
So technically speaking,
before hitting the festivals last year.
yes. So technically speaking, it actually first premiered at a festival back in 2022.
Okay.
But because this is a self-produced and financed film, it
Hmm.
didn't get its wide quote unquote release until this calendar year, where it got a video on demand release at first, back in April. It did not get a theatrical run. They specifically chose not to do a theatrical run because when they were offered one by studios, the studio was just going to do it for like 2 weeks and put it on VOD after that, anyways. And they said, well, might as well just jump to the VOD first. And they just decided to do it themselves.
Well, the reason I go do it for 2 weeks is because that's what all you need to qualify for the Academy
Yeah.
Awards is 2 weeks in
So this
LA,
means
New
that,
York,
yeah,
or Austin or Texas somewhere.
it will not thus then qualify for a Academy Award. But what it will qualify for is my top five, where it will be.
Oh my God.
That's how good this thing is. You have to see this thing. It is beyond explanation, especially for people like us that went to film school and know weird shit about early cinema. This is for us.
Okay, because I watched the trailer
Yeah.
for this and
Hmm.
it looked like, speaking of Abram, slapstick comedy.
It is very slapstick.
All right.
Yes. Prepare yourself for that.
Okay. I just have to
All
also
right.
prepare myself that this is in black and white.
It is also in black and white. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So we'll talk probably more about Hundreds of Beavers next week once you've seen it, because that will be a more fun conversation than just me telling you about it. And in the meantime, that means we're done with the show.
Yes,
So
we're
thank
done
you.
with here. We're gonna watch Hundreds of Beavers. We'll probably both watch Wicked by the time we podcast next week as well.
Fingers crossed. That's what I'm hoping for. But we'll
Yep.
see. But yeah, thank you for joining us on the Media Boat Podcast today. We'll be back next week for another episode. In the meantime, you can find us all over the place on the internet. If you want to find the video versions of our podcast, you can go to YouTube and search Media Boat Podcast there. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications when new videos go live. You could also find us in audio form on podcast apps such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. So check us out there. You can also find us on the internet many places. One of them is our website, mediaboatpodcast.com, where we have an archive of our shows. We also are on social media on Blue Sky at just search Media Boat Cast and you'll find us. You'll also find us on services such as Facebook, that weird right wing X site that I don't touch anymore, and twitch.tv/MediaBoat, which is where Mike occasionally plays video games. And that'll do it. Except for one last thing. If you want to ask us questions, comments, leave feedback about the show, I don't know, tell us that our audio quality on Apple Podcasts is bad. I already know. Email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. And that'll do
Yep.
it. We'll see you guys next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you're
We'll
here in the
be back
US.
next week as we head into December, and that means some lists may or may not be due by next
Yes,
week.
we probably do need to talk about how we're going to roll those out.
Oh,
But
yeah.
let's eat copious amounts of food first, and then we'll have that conversation.
Yes. Get that tryptophan
Yes,
in me.
exactly. Food coma talk. That's what
Yes.
we want.
All right.
All right. With that, we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.